Sent from Disneyland, history in our hand. So much to say about yesterday and the decades we have spanned. Postcards from the park, this journey will embark. See what has changed and what remains on Sent from Disneyland. Sent from Disneyland.
Welcome to the Sent from Disneyland podcast.
Here age relives fond memories of the past.
If it's your first time joining us, welcome. On this podcast, we'll take a journey into the past and explore Disneyland, Disneyland history, and more, with mementos, snapshots, souvenirs, and postcards sent from Disneyland, from 1955 to the present. Let's start by thanking my patrons from patreon.com. You can join in at any level to support the show and receive snail mail from my trips to Disneyland and from my desk, plus some sneak peeks and bonus content. Special thanks to Random Olive, the first patron to this podcast, and to the rest of the e-ticket patrons, to Nia, Eric Daniels, Monica Seitz Vega, Scott Cagle, Russ Romano, Michael and Christina Cross, and Sheila Harry. C-ticket patrons Serious Inquiries Only, Debbie Weinstein, Jennifer Schneep, Angela Reynolds, Grace Coate, Patty Wolin, and Ben and Noel Bruning. B-ticket patron Joshua Bell, and to the A-ticket patrons Elise Sharp, Zealot Infinity, Alexis Robles, Angel DeBlock, and the Beyond the Railroad podcast. I am your host, your post-host Clocky, and today we have 2 postcards sent from Disneyland. The front of our first postcard has the omnibus parked in front of Main Street Station. In the back you can see City Hall, and to the right you can see the horse-drawn streetcar pulling up to Town Square. On the back it reads, Disneyland Omnibus. Disneyland's 5/8 scale double-decker omnibus carries hundreds of passengers daily on a fun-filled tour. Camera fans especially like the unique angles the omnibus's second deck provides. It's postmarked July 15th, 1959, with an Anaheim Pray for Peace cancel and a 4-cent purple Liberty postage stamp, Scott number 1035. I assume they visit the park on Tuesday, July 14th, 1959, when park hours were from 9 a.m. to midnight. The weather was a high of 82 and a low of 66. Park attendance that day was 32,736. It's addressed to Miss Sharon Anderson of Belmont, California. It reads, Dear Sharon, we are enjoying Disneyland. Say hello to your mother and dad for us. Love, Terry. Looking around Town Square, there was a short-lived souvenir shop just next to the Opera House. Jimmy Starr's Show Business Souvenirs opened on March 23, 1959. Jimmy Starr was a real person born in Texas on February 3, 1904. He moved to Oakland, California, and began working at a newspaper when he was in high school. Then, in the 1920s, he had a gossip column and film column for the Los Angeles Record. After the Los Angeles Record closed, he then began working for the Herald. Starr also worked as a screenwriter in the 1930s and had some cameos in a few Hollywood pictures. In the 1940s, he wrote a novel called The Corpse Came COD, which was made into a 1947 film. Jimmy leased a space on Main Street, and it was filled with some of his personal souvenirs, signed photos, movie props, and other collectibles. It was run by Ray and Sally Gruber. Looking at the 1956 guidebook, the shop is simply listed as Show Business in the book and Motion Picture Souvenirs on the back. Looking through photos of Main Street and the Opera House in the late 50s, it's hard to find a clear image of the shop. The original entranceway is currently a sealed door to the left of the Opera House's main entrance, and the shop's old floor space is currently the exit of Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, as well as a few smashed penny machines. Doing some searching online, I did find a letter which reads, May 4th, 1956, to whom it may concern. This will introduce Jimmy Starr as a qualified lessee at Disneyland Park in Anaheim, California. Mr. Starr operates the Show Business store on Disneyland's Town Square. Any courtesy shown to him will be appreciated. Cordially yours, Disneyland Inc., Rodney Bud Colson, lessee and exhibitor liaison. The letterhead has the original Disneyland Castle logo and Disneyland Inc. in gold Gothic lettering. I also found an image of his business card with Show Business in written in blue Gothic calligraphy and a copy of the Disneyland Inc. letterhead, followed by the address 1313 Harbor Boulevard, Anaheim, California, and the phone number Keystone 51181. Finally, at the bottom on the left-hand side, it reads Town Square, and on the right, Jimmy Starr. The shop closed just before the fall of 1959. After leaving Hollywood, Jimmy moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and worked as the director of advertising and public relations for Ramada Inn. He donated many of his papers and photographs to Arizona State University in the 1970s and died at the age of 86 on August 13, 1990. Add some flair to your mail by checking out stamps at Enfield Post. You can explore different stamp options on our Etsy site, grab some great deals by following EP Sunday Sales on Instagram, or create something special and have her design a stamp array for your invitation or celebration. You can head over to enfieldpost.com and explore all the different vintage postage stamps you can use on your next card or letter. That's ENFIELDPOST on Instagram and enfieldpost.com for your wedding and vintage postage needs. Enfield Post is the official postage stamp sponsor of the Sent from Disneyland podcast. The front of our next postcard has Town Square. You can see the Disneyland band circling the flagpole, the horse-drawn streetcar and fire engine starting down Main Street, and if you look closely, you can see the Hills Brothers Coffee House. On the back it reads, Town Square, Disneyland, USA. Happy memories of days gone by may be relived in Disneyland's Town Square, where guests may answer a fire alarm or enjoy a ride on a horse-drawn streetcar as the Disneyland band gathers around the flagpole. It's postmarked July 2, 1966, with a Los Angeles cancel and a 4-cent black and white Lincoln postage stamp, Scott number 1282. I assume they visit the park on Friday, July 1, 1966, when park hours were from 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. The weather was a high of 87 and a low of 62. Park attendance that day was 27,495. It's addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Howard Sherman of Milton, Pennsylvania. It reads, Arrived right on time. Flight was very pleasant. Here for 4 days, but have seen many beautiful parts of LA. Spent yesterday here and Knott's Berry Farm. Is so cool and lovely here, sunny but mild. I like it very much. It was so warm at home, I decided to venture. Hope you were all well. Love, Aunt Mary. Another interesting Main Street shop was Wonderland Music, listed in the 1956 guidebook as Music Store on the back and Music Store, Wonderland inside the book. Wonderland Music eventually took over the location of Jimmy Starr's Show Business Souvenirs, but had a few other locations on Main Street. On opening day, it was fittingly next to the Wurlitzer Music Hall, where the Magic Shop is today. In 1956, it moved down Main Street, taking over the Blue Bird Shoes for Children store in between where the Disney Clothiers and Chester Drawers is today. In 1960, the Kodak Camera store expanded and moved Wonderland Music to its final location next to the Opera House. Wonderland Music sold records, sheet music, and player piano rolls. The shop had a player piano in full operation to welcome guests in with music. The store closed in 1972 and sat empty for 3 years when a guest hospitality center opened in its place. My incoming postcard is sponsored by the Art Throwdown. Art Throwdown, or ATD, is a craft hour on Instagram starting at 9 p.m. Eastern or 6 Pacific. Art Throwdown is a wonderful community of artists who love to share their craft, from creating sticker postcards and coloring techniques to intricate paper cutting and unique crafting. It's always a treat to watch a show and occasionally get some one-of-a-kind postcards from the group. Each host brings something a little different to each show. I'll list some of the regular hosts, or you can follow Russ Romano 2021 on Instagram. The front of my incoming postcard has original art by Kristen Hermany, with a black rabbit holding onto a fish tank full of goldfish, surrounded by various plants. It's postmarked February 13, 2025, with a Carroll Stream, Illinois cancel and an Ellsworth Kelly blue and red Rocker Forever postage stamp, Scott number 5384. It reads, Hey Clocky, are you aware a bunch of ATD peeps are getting together around Chicago, August this year, in line with the Great American Stamp Show? FYI, Kristen. Thank you so much for the postcard, Kristen. I love the original artwork you made, and applaud whichever company you had make your postcards. This one had a few blemishes on the back from the postal machine, but the front looks fantastic. I will likely be in Chicago this summer, but will miss the Great American Stamp Show. I did meet Jim the Sticker Man at a stamp show in Sacramento a few years ago. It's too bad I'm going to be so close, but miss the show by a few weeks. Thanks for listening to Sent from Disneyland. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and tell your friends. It would also help to leave a 5-star rating and comment on whatever podcast platform you use. If you'd like to support the show financially, please check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/sentfromdisneyland. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Sent from Disneyland or my website, sentfromdisneyland.com. For questions and comments, send me a postcard addressed to Sent from Disneyland, P.O. Box 44, Hood, California, 95639. This podcast is not affiliated with Disney, the United States Postal Service, or any post office or Disney-related properties. Opinions expressed on this podcast belong to the host and guests of the Sent from Disneyland podcast. This podcast is produced and edited by Clocky McDowell, website designed by Misty McDowell, theme song was written and performed by Noah Sunday Lefkowitz. Take it away, Noah.